How did I ever forget that?
Well, we missed you last month.
Sorry.
All right, let's, I don't see Janita this morning, and I don't think there's anything for her, so I can cross her off the list and we'll just call the roll to make sure we're all here. John DeWolf,
Here.
Richard Swezak,
Here.
Rob Lewandowski. I see you.
There I go. Here.
Good morning. DeAndrea's here. Bob Doan,
Here.
Patty Maroney.
Here.
Al is here. Good morning, Al.
Good morning.
Susan, good morning.
Good morning. Here.
Brian,
Good morning.
and the only one we're missing is Bob Dawn. So far. What I would like to do is go to the minutes from last month first to get that out of the way because it involves some surveying issues, and it also, I want to make sure that we had everybody appropriately accounted for. For some reason, I thought Bob Don was in attendance at the end of the meeting, but perhaps I was wrong. So the meeting minutes from May 12th have been presented. I don't know if there's any additions or corrections. If there are, please advise. We did have a lengthy discussion about, our review of applications, and Al and Rob and John have done a significant amount of work since that time, and we're going to talk about that next, if that's okay. So if there are any additions or corrections to the minutes, please advise. If not, is there a motion to accept them as presented?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Bob.
I think they were done very, very well with respect to the old business where we discussed our ongoing consideration of how to deal with science degrees.
Yes, sir. And that's
Well
why I
done.
wanted to get this out of the way on the minutes to have that aspect, generally accepted, and then we'll follow through with our other discussion in a few moments. Before we get to that, I thought we could,
Do we need to vote?
oh yeah, I'm sorry. All those in favor of the motion to accept the minutes as presented, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you, John, for keeping me on target.
No.
And I know we'll be jumping around a little bit, but I think it's good to do so. In this case, the other issue that's on our agenda today is the letter from an applicant from Pennsylvania discussing potential issues, relative to licensing in Connecticut. And I said, let's just talk about it all together and see if there's a difference of opinion about that. This was a letter from Zachary Denk. He's a civil designer, whatever that is. And if you want to do a boundary survey in Pennsylvania, apparently you have to be a surveyor. But anyone in Pennsylvania can do topographic and engineering surveys, whatever they may be. So the question is being posed to the board based on our regulations is, you have to be licensed surveyor to perform topographic and engineering surveys. And we don't, and then the other question is about a temporary license, and I don't believe we have ever issued one. So you want to make a comment about that? Anyone?
I believe that our regulations allow incidental, non-boundary survey work by architects and engineers. I'd have to look it up to remember correctly, but I'm fairly confident that it does allow that.
Yeah. That's what I said yesterday. The word incidental is always problematic in my opinion. And what is it actually doing? we've come to the conclusion recently in our discussions that an engineer can put together a septic system and he can do his own topo. That's part of his engineering design. If in the end of the day, something is required to be certified as compliant with zoning regulations as to setbacks, et cetera, that has to be done by a surveyor because it relates actually to the property boundary. So,
Mhm.
I don't think we're going to ever win an argument or find that it's inappropriate to suggest that an engineer can't develop some contouring and elevations that are critical to his design, whether he verifies it or not. On the other hand, placing the topography relative to the property is something that has to be done or should be done by a land surveyor. Otherwise, what's the relationship?
Mhm. And I think that's basically the same for all the other states. You know,
When it's necessary to relate to the property boundary for whatever purpose, it must be done by a licensed land surveyor. That's it. So
I agree with both of what you said.
mhm.
therefore, do we have a temporary license in Connecticut? I don't know. I haven't found it. I haven't looked for it particularly as whether or not it's in our statute, but I don't think that we've ever, as a group, whatever today have ever issued one, and I don't know that we've ever had a request. So
I've never heard of one.
What was
If you
that,
had
Susan?
if you had to issue a temporary, you'd have to go through the same process as
right, it's the
a
same
regular.
process.
Right.
Right,
Mhm.
correct. So now the last one is he's got 10 credit hours for survey classes. Well, we have various licensing criteria for land surveyors. So I don't think we can answer that question, or nor do we have to answer it.
Yeah, I think he just needs to research that, look it up.
It depends on
Yes.
his experience and his education, and you put those together in the application and we'll consider it. So i- i- in a quick response, we would have the second question, we would say, we don't have a temporary license and you would need to file an application regardless for licensure in Connecticut. And the third question is your application will be considered against the standards of our regulations.
Right. Plus, he's not an LS in Pennsylvania. He's an SIT.
Correct. And
He
then the
needs to
first,
get licensed somewhere first.
right. Well, he can apply to Connecticut for a license, but he still has to file an application. So 10 credit hours in and of itself may not be sufficient. And it all depends on experience and education and progression. So it's experience and education is what it all comes down to. So your qualifications will be evaluated against our regulations, which include education and experience. Would that be a sufficient answer to 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then in the first one, I guess the safest answer is any surveying work that's related to property must be performed by a licensed land surveyor. Without getting into this incidental and all that other, we don't have to get into that. If you want to provide surveying relative to boundary, you must be a licensed land surveyor. That's it.
Yeah.
In regards to the topographic and engineering survey, there is a statute. I should have looked it up before the meeting, but which, as Ryan said, lets you perform, as you called it, incidental surveys. But
Correct. That's why we
But
can answer this. We can answer it simply. If you're going to relate anything to the boundary of the parcel, then it must be done by a licensed land surveyor. You can extend it beyond that, but why do we have to try to answer every question that may come about?
he needs to
Okay.
do his homework.
Right.
He can refer to the Connecticut general statutes.
general statutes and our regulations. So if we're going to respond politely, I think it's sufficient to say you should refer to our statutes and regulations for particular issues.
Yes.
However, any surveying related to boundary must be performed by a licensed land surveyor.
Yep.
And then second, we do not have a temporary license. And three, you would need to file an application for consideration against our statutes and regulations. And lastly,
Sounds
what are
good.
our licensing requirements? You can read the regulations and file an application. Jane, is that
Yeah, I
enough
think that-
to make a brief response?
I think so. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this issue? If not, we'll go back to our agenda. I think then, considering that we have three, if I remember correctly, three land surveying items, that we could do those for you now. And then we'll move on to our evaluation criteria. So the first application was for Anthony Baldock for Class 6A Credit Part 1.
Go ahead, Susan. I saw you were about to
Oh.
say.
I heard you ready to go and I was gonna wait for you. But yeah, he's got 32 years experience. Everything appears to be in order. Passed his FS just last month. And I would motion to approve him.
I'd second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve Anthony Baldock for Class 6A Exam Credit Part 1, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
And Tony,
opposed?
yes,
Yes.
I voted yes on it. I was also one of his endorsers.
Good. There's nothing better than personal knowledge.
I've known him.
Is he related to Norm Bolduc?
I don't know, Susan.
Okay.
He lives in Deep River, one town over, and I've known him, and where he works now is Stevens Associates in Madison, and I've worked with them for forever.
Excellent.
The next applicant was Brian Zick for Class 8 exam.
Okay, well, he has 25 years and 3 months experience, an associate's in surveying technology and a bachelor's in surveying. Everything appears to be in order. He's licensed in several states and wants to become licensed here, and I would vote to approve him.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you,
I was
Ryan.
trying to find the application, but yes, I second.
All those in favor of the motion to approve Brian Zick with 25 years of experience and many licenses in other states, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And the third applicant was for Class 14A license, issued to Daniel Cote.
So he appears to have met all the requirements for his LSIT. And he has 12 years, 10 months, in addition to recently in March passing his FS exam. And I would also make a motion to approve his application.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Ryan. All those in favor of the motion to approve Daniel Cote for Class 14A license, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I think that was all of the land surveying items. Unless you
Yes.
Oh,
want to participate in our discussion about evaluation of education and experience. I thank you for your service and see you in July.
That sounds great. Thank you. Everyone have a wonderful day.
Yeah, have a good month
Thank you.
too.
All right, thank you.
See you later, Susan. Tony, I'm gonna stay on for
Yes,
this.
please.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, yeah. So the next item on the agenda is our discussion about education, evaluation, and experience in education. And Al compiled, a summary of various sources between a great deal of work that John and Rob put forth. And yesterday, Rob did a little more thinking, and that is the discussion we should have now as to whether or not we should include a little more detail in items 3 and 4. So if we can, Rob, you want to explain your approach?
Yeah, and again, I should have included Al when I sent those notes. I didn't realize Al did that C1 note, but when I had put together that spreadsheet that I with the with all the different classes of license that are in our regulations, and then had the separate sheet of the our board policies, I kind of did that. I wanted to do that with the different classes of license with the regulations, just to make sure that at least I got them all in my brain a little bit, to compare against what we're doing. Because over the years, we've always talked about modifying statutes and stuff, but yet there's a lot of stuff in there that we actually follow. And I am, at the end of the day, I almost think we could probably work within what's in regulation now, but that's besides the point. So just taking one last look at C1 there, the couple edits that I had, item 3, I know everybody has C1, but item 3, the couple edits I wanted to add was a graduate with a 4-year foreign engineering degree. I think that's just a cleanup to make sure
Right.
that there's no ambiguity.
It goes without saying, but it's necessary to put it in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, the previous item had 4-year engineering technology. I mean, we're being specific, so because now that we have the whole item 4 with the science degree, let's be specific. 4-year foreign engineering degree. And then when I was looking at the items A and B that were written below, we had ABET equivalent 4 years of experience, non-ABET equivalent 6 years of experience, which is consistent with the 4-year standard US degrees. So I get that. But when I looked at our regulations said 6 to 10 years, depending on the board's opinion, which in my mind got me to thinking a little bit. Maybe there should be a premium on a foreign degree with experience in the US over a US degree. And I say that from a perspective that if you get a degree in a foreign country and then you come here and practice, maybe it takes you a little extra time to get up to speed with US codes and regulations and whatnot. So it felt like a little bit of a premium made sense to try to bring people up to speed. And in that sentence, I added, years of engineering experience in the US, and just adding in the US because again, our job is to protect the public interest, and to give somebody a license in here, a lot of it is driven by, codes and our regulations. In my mind, that experience should be here in the US with our codes, regulations, and customary business practice. So those are my two thoughts. Number one, make sure the experience is in the US. Number two, a little bit of a premium on experience because of that foreign educational experience versus a domestic educational experience. So that's item 3. I don't know if everybody agrees or disagrees.
Comment?
Those were my thoughts.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I completely agree with what you're intending. I think the experience should be under US code standards and specifications. What about the person who works for an oil company in Saudi Arabia using and doing US stuff? I'm just wondering if it covers that.
Yeah.
See, I like the idea it should be in the United States, but there are a lot of firms in the US do work abroad.
I mean, if you wanted to wordsmith it, my
I
intent
just-
in the US was what you said, working with US codes and regulations. If you happen to work with those codes and regulations somewhere else, then you're still achieving, in my mind, the intent.
Yeah,
intent would
I'm
be
not
US.
sure. I just thought about this. Because I like everything you did, but I just was thinking, US firms? I don't know.
How about adding just the extra phrase, ABET equivalent, 6 years engineering experience in the United States,
Or
work in the board evaluation of the experience. Experience.
you could say in the US or under US codes and regulations. Put the or in there so either or works.
If you
I
just
think
say
that's
under
the
US
intent,
codes
is
and
it?
regulations, you don't have to say in the US, right? That just covers both categories, right?
I would agree. When I thought of this, that was my intent, just to make sure you're familiar with what we're expecting you to apply.
That sounds good to me.
6 engineering experience, with U.S. codes and specifications. Regulations. You engineering experience under codes and what codes and regulations?
Yeah, you say codes, specifications, and regulations?
Yeah, codes, specifications, and regulations. Under U.S. codes, specifications, and regulations.
I think that covers it.
Yeah.
A graduate foreign engineering degree evaluated by NCWS requires 6 years of engineering experience under U.S. codes, specifications, and regulations. Is that about right?
Do we want to add the word acceptable before engineering?
Acceptable what?
Acceptable engineering experience,
Right.
I'd be good with that.
acceptable to the board, but we're getting more specific.
I mean, if you just leave it acceptable, John, I think you're achieving that, right?
Okay.
The board's always the determinant of acceptable.
So it's reading.
The implication is that the experience has to be reviewed by the board and found acceptable.
Yep, I would agree with that too.
And the same thing, do it in other places where they would talk about experience. Before engineering, put acceptable.
But what we're saying is that you're going to have the engineering degree evaluated by NCWS, and then ABET equivalent should mean 6 years of acceptable engineering experience working with codes, specifications, and regulations.
US codes.
Working under U.S. code specifications and regulations. That's what ABET equivalent is. 6 years of 6 years of acceptable engineering experience, working with or under U.S. code specifications and regulations.
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's A. So I think that works.
And B would be the exact same thing, Tony, except for 10 years
Yes, sir.
for the non-ABET.
The non-ABET equivalent means that NCEES evaluated it and found it to be not equivalent, which means that you've got a lot of engineering courses and experience, but it's fully not equivalent. Therefore, you prove your worth by 10 years of experience. Is that where we're going? I mean, what
Yeah.
else is a non-ABET equivalent? You know, a non-ABET equivalent is not a baking degree or a business degree. It's a engineering degree with some deficiencies.
Right.
John, do they approve foreign degrees, ABET? Does ABET evaluate foreign degrees?
I'm not sure. I
Only-
think they do. I know
Only some
I believe-
universities, some foreign universities have been evaluated in advance, right?
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
but
but
there are a
if
lot of
you-
countries where they would not. We know for sure there are a lot of countries where ABET does not approve the degrees. They may do it in some, but they certainly don't do it in all countries.
All right, so now we come with an applicant who's been evaluated by NCEES, and it says it's not equivalent. Why? Well, it's missing some science or it's missing humanities. So we evaluate that. But if you're missing humanities, are we requiring 10 years of engineering experience, working under codes and specifications?
Well, Tony, I think we're mixing NCES and ABET a little bit here because
Okay.
remember, NCES is pretty clear. They don't evaluate the degrees per ABET standards.
And they said that in the education policy. I printed
Yeah.
it again last night just to read it again, but you're okay. So I guess what I'm trying to then for me, my own is what is a non-ABET equivalent? What's the variation is what I'm trying to get at.
In my mind, when I read this, ABET is ABET, right? Just like a standard 4-year engineering degree in the US. It's ABET accredited or it's not, right? There's some universities or colleges that are non-ABET accredited. They just didn't get accreditation. There might be a foreign university that is ABET accredited. Why do I think Canada has some? I think some of our closer countries, but probably a lot of them are going to be non-ABET accredited. So therefore, you have to have that longer, kind of like a technology. Almost in my mind, if it's non-ABET accredited, maybe it starts becoming a little bit more suspect.
Right.
Which is in my mind what led to the 10-year.
Okay, but let's skip or go back one. In item 3, the first sentence is that a graduate with a 4-year foreign engineering degree.
Yep.
And then we included evaluated by NCEES. Does that belong there?
In my mind, it does. I think everything should be evaluated by NCEES.
I agree.
Taken into consideration. Can't hurt.
Okay, so now you take that sentence and you apply it down to B. So we have the first sentence is, under B, it's still a graduate with a 4-year foreign engineering degree evaluated by NCEES. And it's non-ABET equivalent. It's non-ABET. So we need 10 years.
NCEES, remember, as some people have described them, they count engineering credits, right? Versus ABET probably looks at the entire curriculum to make sure you have a complete curriculum.
Okay.
So I think both get applied, right? You get NCS evaluation, so you get an opinion, and then you also have the ABET or non-ABET
Right.
criteria.
Should we say 6 to 10 years to cover the case where they don't have humanities or something? Under B?
Say that again, John. Should we do?
Okay, I'm looking at Rob's changes. Under B, under 1B, rather than just put 10, why shouldn't we say 6 to 10, which is what is in our regulations? And that way, of a person who doesn't meet the ABET requirements because they're missing humanities or general education, we could keep them to 6 years.
Okay. Yeah, you're giving a little bit more benefit of the doubt to the ABET equivalent, and in the non-ABET, we can evaluate 6 to 10.
If it's non-ABET equivalent, it may be because they're missing 3
Right.
credits of humanities.
Well, that's their degree, right? But the ABET is the program accreditation. They wouldn't be a non-ABET because they didn't have a humanities course, right?
Yes, it would.
The engineering program is ABET or it's non-ABET.
Right.
ABET requires humanities.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. ABET generally, in my mind, was you have a cross section. You want to be a well-rounded engineer, right? So there
Right.
are some humanities, there are some science, there is statics, there's all this other aspect under the the core courses. So
Hey, John, are you suggesting that if somebody, that you put the 6 to 10 years of experience for the non-ABET accredited, and that if they don't have, if they're missing like the humanities, that we would extend their experience requirement to 10 years? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, if they're non-ABET equivalent, it may be because they're missing 3 credits of humanities. And so basically that's no different than the ABET accredited as far as we're concerned. We're not that critical on that aspect.
Right, okay.
that's why I was trying to make sure that the first sentence under item 3 is applicable to B also, is at the heading.
Yeah, and that's not where my brain was, Tony and
Okay.
John. My brain with the non-ABET was a engineering program, whatever university it is, wherever in the world, right? It's not an ABET.
It could be here in the US. You could
approved.
have you could have a non-ABET accredited US degree. Yeah.
Correct. That's where my brain was, not the individual. It's the program that they were in. Is the program an ABET accredited program, or is the program you're in non-ABET accredited? It's just like item A. We have ABET and non-ABET universities here in the US.
As an example, an Indian degree, they do their humanities before they get into their engineering program. So they would be a non-ABET equivalent degree, even though they're fantastically good degrees. And so they would fall under B, and that's what I'm concerned about. If you're under B because you didn't do humanities, we need to be able to give them, I think, 6 years rather than the 10.
I
On the
like
flip
that.
side, John, if the program is non-ABET, the engineering program at the university is non-ABET approved, it could be a lesser program, right? So in my mind, that's where I was coming from. Could be a lesser program, so you'd want more experience.
But okay, I see where you are, Rob. You're looking at a looser degree, I guess. But
Correct, exactly.
If you just miss the ABET part because of humanities, then I don't think that's that critical. Knowing that you got your humanities previously to your degree. So I would rather consider them, and we only require them to have 6 years. Whereas the more looser degree, we could say 10 years. But if we have 6 to 10, then that's up to the board to determine how many years.
Yeah, but then how do you apply that becomes pretty subjective there, right?
Well, I think we have to use our judgment. That's what we're on the board for.
Before we finish that, can I ask a question for my clarification? Is a technology degree non-ABET?
I was going to ask that question when we got to our cases.
Because it's important, because I am still a little confused on, you know, engineering accreditation, whatever it is, EAC, Engineering Accreditation Commission of ABET. You see, it gets a little gray for me. So if an individual goes to Georgia Tech, is he at a technology degree or is he getting an engineering degree ABET accredited? Just because
It's
the
getting an
school is,
ABET accredited engineering BS.
okay,
Yeah,
at Georgia
yeah.
Tech. So what becomes, when and how do we consider or identify a technology degree?
That's
By the degree.
identified by the program. The
No, I don't
program-
know about that. Because
You know,
like
I
Central,
recently had an application that I thought was, going to be ABET, but it wasn't. It was a technology degree, and it was an ETAC degree versus ABET.
Right.
So I think
Engineering
that
technology. Okay, so that's clear. They've decided that for whatever reason that program is engineering technology.
right. So once it's an engineering technology, they need the 6 years experience. But if it's ABET, then because the individual that I reviewed had a master's from the same college, even though he only had a technology degree from that college, and he went to 4 years at that college, and I'm saying, well, why doesn't he have an ABET, engineering degree versus an engineering technology degree if they offer master's courses in the same subject? So I got confused, but it's one of those kind of things where I think that, it's either an engineering technology or an ABET. And if you're engineering technology, you need the extra experience. If you're ABET, you do not.
That's the theme at the national level. They seem to be demeaning the technology degree, and
Right.
and I'm not so sure why. But
I
that's
mean-
why
I
I'm
mean, Tony-
asking. Is
Tony,
Yeah.
like a school like Central Connecticut State University, right? Traditionally was an engineering technology degree. So they
Yes.
have an accredited engineering technology degree. But I believe now they also have an accredited engineering degree. So they
They
have
do.
both accreditations, one accreditation for the technology program, one accreditation for the engineering. It's the accreditation doesn't go with the entire university. It goes
Right,
with
okay.
the individual program of study.
For a technology degree, isn't it? I mean, and I just don't know. I don't know much about it, but I thought that it was more focused on the applications of like software and technology, and less on the theory and the deep math and the physics and everything that we do in an engineering program. Is that not correct? Am I misunderstanding?
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
It certainly was when I was teaching at the university, because there were technology programs like Hartford State Tech that were quite different than what we were doing. And as I said at the last meeting, when Hartford State Tech students transferred into UConn, we had a major problem because they would get credit for early courses like statics and dynamics, and they would then move on to the later courses, and they didn't do well because their courses at Hartford State Tech were not at the same level.
And I think what Ryan suggested is it's more putting it into operation rather than the theory
Right.
behind it. So more lab and practical.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so their courses were not as theoretical.
So when you take that technology degree and consider it a non-ABET degree, non-ABET equivalent, then you're requiring them to have more experience. So then now we're just back down to the same thing. Should it be 6 or 6 to 10 to give the board some leeway? In Rob's opinion, it should be more experience because you have to prove that you put it into practice.
That's
But-
correct. Yeah, and again, it's the suspect degree. That again, that's where my personal, you've got a degree that can be considered suspect because
Yep.
it's not, ABET hasn't gone through it and approved it. So you have to prove yourself for extra time in the industry.
So, but in your second sentence there, you say the way things are done here, implying that we're talking about, more or less a foreign degree still. But that's
Well,
really
that's
not the
just-
intent. Yeah.
The way things are done was the experience in the US.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to add in the US or that language
Right.
with US codes. That would just make sure that their experiences with the way things are done here, not in India or Sri Lanka
Yes.
or wherever.
Yes, but we also just mentioned the fact that we can have a non-ABET engineering degree here in the US.
Yep.
So it still comes down to that. We're placing a US degree in this non-ABET equivalent, and also the chance that it's a foreign degree, which is determined to be non-ABET equivalent.
Yeah, we gave a premium on the non-ABET accredited engineering US degree. We went from 4 to 6 years of experience. I mean, maybe instead of 10, make it 8. Split the difference, make it 8, and it's the
Yeah.
same concept. It's a premium.
Yeah,
And that way there, it's a fixed number. And at the end of the day, a board acceptable experience, you always have that liberty to not accept certain experience if you don't
So
like it.
we're going to repeat what we edited on A, 3A, and include it in B with the adjustment of 8 years of acceptable engineering experience working under U.S. code specifications and regulations.
Yeah, I mean, that fits within our 6 to 10 year regulation, right?
Yes,
And-
sir.
And it's consistent with the other one that it's a 2-year premium over the ABET accredited version.
And it makes it more uniform going forward so that, look, guys, you didn't have 8 years. That's it. That's done. Okay.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, where does the student who has a great Indian degree lacking 6 credits of humanities, where does that student fall in this?
The question would be, is it an ABET degree or a non-ABET degree?
Yeah.
It's a non-ABET because the person is missing 3 credits of humanities.
And we
Well,
can
that's
overlook
not,
it.
That's not true. Because the degree that they got from whatever university would be evaluated, not their individual degree, the program is evaluated. And the
Okay,
program is the ABET accreditation or non-ABET
okay.
accreditation.
My question is still the Indian student with a degree from India lacking 3 credits of humanities, where do they fall in this whole process?
Is the
I think
university that they went to ABET accredited or is the university non-ABET accredited? That would be the question.
No
It's the
Indian
university
degrees.
question, not the individual.
I don't
The-
think any Indian degrees can meet the ABET requirement simply because they don't meet the humanities requirement. And yet they're excellent degrees. So where does that student fall, that applicant fall?
John, the NCEES is determining that it's not equivalent to an ABET degree. And if they determine that it's not equivalent to an ABET degree because of 3 or 4 courses in humanities, we overlook that and we say, well, it is equivalent to an
Right.
ABET degree. So then it falls under subsection A
It does? But
because we overlook it.
The applicant doesn't know it. The applicant knows that the degree has been evaluated and it's not equivalent. So the applicant has to assume it's under B.
Well,
And that's
well,
not
again,
clear.
I think we're mixing stuff again here. NCES is very clear. They do not evaluate degrees based on ABET standards. So when we get that determination by NCES, that's not against ABET standard. They're, as people say, they're just counting engineering
Counting
credits.
credits.
So ABET and NCES are 2 different things. They're not
I
directly
understand.
related.
I'm just still not sure about that Indian student lacking 3 credits in humanities. Do they have to do 10 years for lacking humanities?
Well, we reduced it to 8, but no.
No.
I don't think that lacking humanities is the go, no go decision. It's ABET or non-ABET
Right.
program.
But there's no way an Indian degree can be ABET. So that means a student who has a fantastically good degree, the IT programs are top notch, is not ABET, and so they got to do 10 years of experience.
We reduced it to 8.
That's still too much. They should be at 6 or 4 even.
So if you're a US student going to a US college that's non-ABET accredited, we're requiring you to get 6 years of experience. If that same student just goes to India and gets a 4-year non-ABET accredited degree, they could get their PE in 4 years?
I think that what we're doing is it's a little bit of semantics in terms of, you have to evaluate what, I agree with John in terms of if they don't have any humanities, they will never be ABET accredited, no matter what you do. And they always say that, and they give us a breakdown that they have all these engineering credits, they have all these, science credits, they have all these other credits, and then they're saying they miss, six, credit hours of humanities. So they're non-ABET. But so it's not that they have an engineering technology degree, they're just non-ABET because they don't have humanities.
If
So
you're worried that somebody's short 3 credits humanities, then write an exception in there. I'm worried about the person who's getting a degree that's a lesser degree, and we're letting them
Yes.
through with lesser qualifications.
We haven't referred to it in a long time, but we used to ask Barbara, she'd go to her book, is it ABET accredited? Because we hear some programs, we never heard of the school, Eastern Morehouse State, and is that accredited? Look it up in the book. ABET said it's accredited. Let's move on. That's what Rob is saying. Either it is or it isn't, period. It's that simple. And then, if it's accredited, fine. And if it turns out that you want to investigate further and realize why it wasn't accredited, I doubt that it's because there wasn't, enough humanity. So let's just rely on the ABET book. You either are or you're not accredited, period. And it could be an Indian degree.
And that gives us the ability to rely on the degree, that it was a good degree. I mean, it's a measure of the quality of the degree, the ABET process.
I think we're covered there. If we use the ABET as the baseline and we can refer to the the book, either ABET published it or they didn't. I think that's still the case. And
Okay, we have another problem.
Okay.
Number 2 on Al's thing is a graduate of a 4-year engineering technology curriculum. ABET credited, they need 7 years experience because it's a technology degree. Non-ABET credit, they need 9 years experience following the degree, and yet we're asking for 10 for a much better degree.
Well, we knocked it down to 8. So we knocked it down to 8, John.
On one item 3B, we basically agreed that reduce it to 8 with all the same language as in A.
So again, because I'm not writing this all down, I apologize. The Indian student lacking 3 credits of humanities, where do they fall?
We're going to go to the book, and is that university accredited? That's it.
It's not. It's
Okay.
not.
Well, then he need 8 years of acceptable engineering experience working under U.S. code specifications and regulations. I'm not worried about, the distinction of the humanities. We've been doing it for 25 years, so it's either just make it easy on us and the future guys. It's either ABET equivalent or non-ABET. There's a book, and they're going to go from that. If there's non-ABET equivalent, but they got a great engineering program, then working under the U.S. codes and specifications for 8 years is not a lot to ask.
Okay.
I mean, John, are you on item 2? Are you suggesting the non-A-Bet accredited should be more than 9 years?
I actually don't believe an engineering technology degree should allow you to become licensed. So that's not the answer you're asking for, but yeah, I guess with 8, I'll go along with 8. That makes it at
Yeah,
least.
I mean, if you said, hey, make that 9, 10, I wouldn't argue. Again, I go back to quality of education, because in my mind, a good quality education is item 1, helps us protect the public, right? Like
Right.
if we can rely on the education that the person got, that's step 1 of this whole thing.
Okay, can I ask a question? I don't have the latest here, but in 3, you also talk about master's degree and PhD. Are you adjusting those years too?
No.
No.
They're staying at 5 years of experience and 4 years experience in part B, 3B, and part A.
Yeah, you're right. We should probably bump those up corresponding to the 6 and 8, right?
Correct. In part A too, if you made any adjustments under that, A Medical is 4 years experience, 3 years with masters, 2 years with PhD. That stays. And then
Yeah, we
part
didn't
B
touch
is,
it.
Yes.
okay, then you were all talking under part B, then you got to worry about masters and PhD.
Basically, the other way to write it is that if you have a master's, it knocks a year off. If you have a PhD, it knocks 2 years off the requirements, the experience requirement.
Yeah, but if you're gonna go with 6, then if you go with 6, is that where you're going? 6 or 8? You went to 8 under part B?
I think if you have a master's, you should get back down to 4 years.
I mean, do you just add
About
2
th-
years to
3
every one of
years.
those numbers in item 3? Because that's what the first number, we added 2 years.
Well, then
Yeah,
you
so
should
that-
add 2 to masters and 2 to the PhD then.
That's what I'm saying now. Yeah, just
Yeah.
add 2 to everything. And you're just putting a premium on a foreign degree versus a domestic degree.
Okay. I'm just trying to clean up what I'm looking at here, but
Yeah,
Right,
you're right.
I understand all the rest of what you've done and everything, and I don't disagree with. I'm just trying to get the language done. That's all.
Right. So you're changing the 3 to 5 in the 3 years experience with a master's goes to 5. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
I
and
think
2 goes to
part
2
A,
years.
part A, you left at 4 years, correct?
No,
No, it's the 6. We're adopting A from Rob's suggestion, so that A would read A bet equivalent 6 years of acceptable engineering experience
Okay,
working
okay.
under
Okay.
codes, specifications, and regulations. Under U.S. codes, specifications, and regulations.
And if it's 6, then that should be 5 and 4, right?
yep.
Yes. In other words, you have to have less
Okay.
experience if you
Okay.
have those other
All right.
degrees.
And then do the same thing under part B.
Right. 5 and 4. And that becomes the 6.
Yeah, that go to 8, 7, and 6, Al.
Okay. Again, I'm not writing anything down. I'm just listening, so.
I think in all the categories that, when we describe it as acceptable engineering experience, we need to have those 3 words in every description.
Yes.
Yes.
Even,
Right.
number 1 and
Yes,
number 2.
yes. Yeah, be
on all of them.
consistent.
Mhm.
Consistency, yes.
Acceptable engineering experience.
Experience.
I'm looking at one draft prior to that where the preamble and everything was all redone. I don't know who did it, but did a nice job with that and, could put it all together.
Right. I've been taking some notes here. I think we can do it one more time. So now we're down to 4.
And with 4, Tony, the only thing I suggested was just to add another item that every one of those degrees gets evaluated by NCES also. So it's more just an extra step.
We do require it anyway, so it's good to put it in there.
Yeah, that way we have that evaluation, and then, we added in that, John, what you wanted, that minimum 48
Okay.
board acceptable engineering credits, so it gives you the ability to put your opinion on things.
Yeah,
I
so
wa-
what we should add in this yellow is degrees shall be, it's gotta be done.
Yes, that's
So-
my suggestion,
So
my
the
recommendation.
the topic is a graduate of an acceptable four-year science degree and engineering master's degree program. They have a master's degree. So then we say the degree, that the undergraduate degree or all degrees.
All degrees.
All degrees shall be evaluated by NCAAS and found to meet NCAAS engineering standard. Shall be evaluated and found to be.
I think what Rob has is good. It says degrees plural. And
Yeah, I know, but we have to put a few extra words there. We're just saying that if you come to me with a science degree, forget the other shit. You come to me with a science degree and a master's, all degrees. So we found that so all degrees shall be evaluated by NCAAS and found to meet the NCAAS engineering standard.
That was my intent of it, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
it just clarified. So when
okay,
you're a graduate with a science degree and a master's, you had chemistry and and environmental engineering. So all degrees shall be evaluated by NCAAS and found to meet the engineering education standard. That's it.
Yep.
And
That's one hurdle.
then you have to have proof that you have at least 48 board acceptable engineering credits, which we've written. Okay.
Yep. That's the second hurdle.
Right. And then you also need to have 6 years of experience acceptable to the board following the degree.
Is the 6 enough for a science degree? We're requiring 8 for a non-ABET degree. If, when we refer to John's Indian degree. We require 8 years.
I would say that because you put a little more years of experience in there somehow, because we're ignoring the undergraduate degree
Yeah.
deficiencies.
Yeah, so can we change that to 8?
Yeah, move it to 8. It's the same thing as one way or the other. It's a non-ABET equivalent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob, you think?
I listen, I don't disagree with you. The only, just so you know, I threw 6 in there because, that's what the Connecticut regulations said. And believe it or not, after spending time with the Connecticut regulations and all these years talking about changing them, we're actually following a lot of them pretty good.
We
So
are.
I wouldn't have a problem going to 8 on that, not at all. I'm okay with that.
yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. And then we just add under
If-
C to
If you,
item 4.
Oh.
Go ahead.
sorry, if you increase the number higher than what's in regulation, do you need a clause to grandfather people in at all? I don't know. That's a technicality. Does it impact licenses that have already been approved?
It probably impacts licenses that have been denied,
Yeah, I would say we haven't approved any.
But Patty, what Rob was pointing out is that we have this flexibility. And years ago, I keep going back to Peter Huntsman, develop your policy and be consistent. We need it. We're trying to codify what we've been trying to do. And as Rob points out, we're not far off. The big problem with our regulations and statutes as written is it allows waivers, which used to cause a lot of problems. But then NCAAS started with this BS plus 30. And you notice on our general applications, which we don't see anymore, the last time we saw them, the majority of the applicants had masters. The newer applicants have the masters because they find that it's necessary. So I think
That's okay.
by,
I just want to make sure that we
Yeah.
haven't set ourselves up to have to revisit things.
we've had very few challenges, right? And as Rob points out, in our regulations, we have this flexibility. And now we're going to put it a little bit more in the middle. So it's easier to consider or be consistent. And a couple of
Patty,
the
sorry,
applicants that
Dan.
we had today, they had extensive experience, and it was documented.
Patty, to get a little bit more background on your question, the way the regulations tend to be written is that you have to meet the requirements at the time of your application. So if somebody was approved under something that was less than what's discussed here, we don't have to go back and reevaluate them. That they've been approved and they were approved under the regulations and the conditions at the time.
Perfect. That solves my concern.
Mhm.
I have a quick question on the number 4. Do we want to add the information about getting credit for PhD like the other 3, or do we, I don't know if you wanted to address that part or if we need it.
The PhD?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Can't hurt,
under
right?
Under which one now?
I'm inclined, since it's a science degree, not to reduce experience, even with a PhD.
So,
And that makes sense too, John, because as you go more into masters and PhD, you're getting more specialized, less generalized anyway. So you would need that more experience.
My problem with this thing, and I'm still playing around with it in my mind, acceptable science degree. There are really not many acceptable science degrees. And obviously the science degree must be related to the master's in engineering. And should we say something about the two have to be related? As an example, a biology degree and a master's in structural engineering is just not acceptable.
no.
A chemistry degree and a master's in environmental engineering is often considered acceptable. So I don't know, or do we just leave it that way and not
Well,
define
that's where
acceptable?
the acceptable works for you, John. You just say, we can make that determination. Look, biology and structures don't go together. Chemistry and environmental engineering, the master's and a doctorate, that they go together.
Yeah, A covers it, John.
Okay,
Yeah, the acceptable engineering credit. Board acceptable engineering credit.
okay.
But Jane raises a point. We don't say anything about, if a guy applicant comes in with a 4-year science degree and an engineering master's or PhD. What do we need to have him in there? The PhD?
I in my opinion, I think you do. And I say that because they define advanced degrees as experience, right? So a PhD is an advanced degree. And if it's a PhD in engineering, it's engineering experience, whether
So
you like it or not.
That's why you're changing that to 8, and then you got your master's and your doctorate, and you've got 8 years experience. That should cover everything.
Okay, if you're going to do that under Part B, so it'd be 6 years experience following the master's degree. Okay, and then you can go on from there.
Ah, Good idea. The whole thing is there's not many applicants that fit into this category. I think more it'll
Yeah,
apply to a number of environmental engineering. And the only other combinations are something with physics and maybe electrical or civil or mechanical.
yeah, you're narrowing it down quite a bit.
So Al, to your point, then you're suggesting that in
6 years experience following the master's degree.
masters,
Put masters in.
and that's, you're leaving that at 6 for the masters,
Yes,
or is it?
yes, it got to be on 6 because the science degree by itself is nothing.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but
You have to-
we were a moment ago, we were upping it to 8 years of experience following the masters. We didn't have following masters, and then only 6 following a PhD.
And we need to not just say experience, but go back to what we did earlier, and it has to be acceptable engineering experience in the US or something to that effect. We need to use the terminology we did for experience under the previous item and put it into this 6 years or whatever
It's
it
got to
is.
go into all of them, yes.
Yeah,
You know, how about we leave the whole PhD thing out, right? And that way there, if it's part of the experience list, you get to determine whether it's acceptable versus automatically being acceptable.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you there, except one more time in that part B, it's got to be following the master's degree. That's what's
Yes.
missing in part B.
yes, I agree with Al.
Okay, so how many years is it?
And forget about the PhD portion of it. I think you're getting into the weeds too much. You're talking a
okay.
1 in a million.
Yeah, so you've got it here. The guy, you're right. Yeah, we're dealing with a person who comes in with science and a master's. You need 48 minimum credits. Then you need, is it 8 or 6 again? What is it? Following the master's. Under what's going to be C.
I thought we changed it to 8.
We did. So it's still 8.
Yep,
Okay,
I think that's
eight.
appropriate.
Okay.
I was quiet on it, but I was waiting for someone else on it.
No,
But
that's
yeah,
okay. It's 8 years.
8 years of experience following the
Acceptable
master's degree.
of experience acceptable to the board following the master's. So you have 8 years experience acceptable to the board following the master's degree.
And the experience has to be written out in the US and that
Yeah, that
following
sentence
those
will-
codes and stuff.
That sentence will come down.
Yeah.
It'll
Okay.
be
Yep.
X number of years of acceptable engineering experience working under US code specifications and regulations. It's just a redundancy, but it applies to foreign and American, US.
Let me just ask one more question along that 8 years of experience. If we compare it to a technology degree, right? So item 2, ABET accredited 4-year engineering technology curriculum, we're requiring 7 years of experience following the degree. So we think somebody in this category requires one more year beyond that engineering technology degree?
Yes, because they did
Yeah.
not have an undergraduate engineering program.
Right. Yes.
So that makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. The technology's got more into it. Yeah.
I think I'm good either way, so I'm good with 8, in my opinion.
Al, you willing to put him back into typing?
I don't have the prior draft, so I haven't been doing anything other than listening here. So
All right, I've made some notes here. See if I can take it. Then we'll send it out again.
okay.
We're close.
Mm-hmm.
You want to kick it to me? I'll look at it now. But like I said, I'm 2 drafts behind. So
I know. I can expand what I think we said, send it off to you and Rob and John and everybody look at it again, and then there'll be some redundancy in the opening statement on each line.
Yeah, I think we need to see it again.
Yeah, we do. We definitely have to see it again. But we can put it into action today mentally and see how they work out. So with that, without any objection, can we move on to our regular agenda?
Sounds
And
good.
if so, the first application is C2, reconsideration for Nicholas Beja. And it's a time, Mr. Beja, he has a BS and an MS within a year of each other. It may have been in the first review that we weren't focusing on his years of experience. But when
I was the one who reviewed it,
yeah,
and I didn't see the masters.
right.
And so I said 3 years, 3 months was
Right.
inadequate. I still have a question. And that is, it's a master's in engineering management. I looked up the program and it's basically an MBA. And
So
the only way I would cut the experience back to 3 years with that master's is if NCEES evaluates it to see if if he has a I don't know. I don't think that master's counts because it's not, it's like an MBA.
well, here's my opinion about that, because a month or so ago, I asked a general question about that. And in this case, you have a good undergraduate degree, and you find out that the job opportunities lead me to design and then management. Why shouldn't I have a master's engineering, a master's program in engineering that provides me the big picture? I think that I read that, and like you, the first time I read it, and then I read it again, and then I read it again. I said, "Wait a minute, there are 2 degrees. That's what Let me look at this." And then they were the 2 degrees, and they were masters. And it just so happens that the second one was in management, and I don't see that that's a problem in this
Okay.
case. I just think that if you went into this program to do a 40-story building, and you'd been working as a structural engineer, and now you're going to management, why shouldn't you understand how to do that? And I believe that program should enhance that ability.
Okay. I'll move approval.
And then he has the 3 years plus the extra for that.
Yep.
And my motion was to approve.
Yeah, do you want to make the motion or you want me
I
to?
move to approve Nicholas Beja with his undergraduate degree and then his master's in engineering management as an appropriate progression of experience.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve Nicholas Beja for Class 1 Credit Part 1, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And again, it's for taking the exam. So, all right, that motion's approved. The next item on our agenda is D1, a list of candidates who passed the PE CBT exams. There were 12 civil, 2 environmental. I guess the world isn't going to pot yet because only two guys want to go into environmental. And actually, 1 woman and 1 guy, I think. So that's just for recognition. D3 is a list of the model law applicants that have come to Connecticut. There were a total of 57 this month. We seem to be averaging around that number. So that's just for information purposes. The next applicant that was on our list was Daniel Minkowitz for Class 1 exam credit Part 1. Daniel Minkowitz, UMass BS Civil, MS Structural, a year apart. My motion is to approve Daniel Yankowitz for Class 1 exam credit Part 1.
Second,
Was that Richard?
yes.
Thank you, Richard. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. And John DeWolf reviewed Di Pasquale and Iluri for Class 1 credit Part 1.
I'll move approval for both. The first one has a Yukon BS in environmental. I'm not sure why I got it, but and the second one has 9 years of experience before his MS in the US and 1 year after, but I think that the experience is all good. So I move approval for both.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rob. All those in favor of the motion to approve Di Pasquale and Iluri for Class 1 credit Part 1 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Bob Doan reviewed Heather Fabian and Demetrius Kutumbas, yeah. Demetrius Kutumbas.
I make a motion to approve both for permit Class 1 exam credit Part 1.
Second.
I'll second.
Second,
Thank you, Rob. All those in favor of the motion to approve Fabian and Kutumbas, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And Rob Lewandowski reviewed Victoria Ramirez.
Civil engineering from Yukon, good signers, 4 years of experience. I recommend approval.
second,
Second. Was it Rob Doan? All those in favor, say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And our last applicant for Class 1 exam credit Part 1 was Jude Souffrant. Reviewed
Jude
by
had
Richard.
a degree from Central Connecticut State College, and has 5 years experience and, has his fundamentals from Connecticut. So I'll suggest we approve him,
Thank you.
or I recommend we approve him.
Okay, and second?
Second,
Thank you, John. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
okay, I got it.
Hearing none, that motion carries. Now, I had the misfortune of reviewing Mr. Neri Alvarez. And I read this thing 2 and 3 times, and I don't even know what to do with it. So the first thing that strikes me was he's got a degree from Houston. And initially started out in a technology degree. Then he went to engineering undergraduate. Then he went back to technology, and then finally engineering undergraduate, civil engineering BSCE major. So he finally got out in good standing with a 2.2 GPA from Houston. And the only thing I noticed was he kept referring to the fact that while he has 9 years, 6 months experience following an engineering accreditation commission evaluation, right? So EAC degree, 9 years, 6 months experience under a licensed engineer, none. So he never worked under a licensed engineer, but he did structural design and continues to do that for industrial pipe stacks, lifting plans, support structures, and things like that. Steel fabrication, quality assurance. I didn't have an application with any endorsers, and I went back through it today to make sure that I didn't not print it. So I don't know if that's a problem. There were 7 or 8 pages of criminal history report, which I guess he served his time and paid his fine. He is registered in Texas. But unfortunately, the application didn't have any endorses. So I don't know if that's a technical problem, if we should ask for them or not.
He should get endorsers.
Is he
think-
NCAA accredited or?
Well, it's an EAC accreditation. In other words, the way we read this, it's after his Engineering Accreditation Commission, which is EAC of ABET, okay? So in other words, they've evaluated that this is a good program. That's the way I read it. And he worked basically independent all of his time, and I don't have any endorsers. So I don't know if that's an issue for us.
I think it is.
I think it is.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think it is.
And I
Particularly
say that
since
because,
he hasn't worked
Think of-
under an engineer.
yeah, so no,
Very
that's
important.
an issue. So that may be a potential, problem for him. But I would suggest that we take this back. And I say that because in contrast to the next one that I reviewed, I'll defer on that. But this one guy gave a long paragraph of a glowing endorsement. I mean, it makes a difference when you see how important they can be. Normally, they just check off, yeah. I would recommend them. But when they take the effort to do something, flowery, it means a lot. Whereas this individual resisting arrest and then not having anybody endorse him, and the fact is he doesn't have any experience under a licensed professional, I think we should just ask for it. So my recommendation in the case of Neri
Tony, if I can
Alvarez.
interrupt for a second, he
Yes,
does
yes.
have references in his record, in his NCES record. He's got 1, 2, 3.
Okay, they didn't come into my
4.
application, that's all.
Yeah, he's got 5 in there.
Okay,
5
You want me to
references or
resend it to
5
you?
endorsers?
Well, because it's an NCES record, so he's got the professional reference.
okay. Well, that's a little bit of an extenuating circumstance then. All right,
Want me to
other than
resend
that,
it to
then,
you?
other than that, his degree qualifies, he's got experience and a resume that shows that he's working in structures and he's licensed in Texas and he wants to come across to Connecticut. So if the endorsers are there, then I would say the application is complete, and I would recommend then that we accept them for reciprocity.
Are there any notes on the endorsers, as far as glowing positive or by chance glowing negative?
Nothing negative.
We've seen some of those
Yeah.
before I say that, so.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's all positive. Yes, I believe so. I definitely would. As far as asking if he is entrust the applicant with the responsibility of important engineering project involving health, safety, and welfare, and they all said yes.
okay. All right. Well, my recommendation then under that circumstance is to approve Neri Alvarez for reciprocity.
I'll second that.
Oh, okay.
Is there a second? I'm sorry. I didn't hear who said second.
I will.
Okay,
I'll
no, thank
second.
you. Got it. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve Neri Alvarez, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you for your input on that. The next applicant that I reviewed was Andre Arias Lodao. I don't know if I got that pronounced correctly, but he did have a foreign degree, very good evaluation, absolutely no deficiencies, licensed in New York, excellent references. That's the one I just referred to. He's worked in the U.S. since 2018. So under our foreign degree and evaluation, he qualifies for our recent evaluation criteria. Therefore, my recommendation is to approve Andre Arias Landano for Class 4 reciprocity.
I'll
Is there a
second.
Thank you, Rob. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. All right. Bear with me for a minute. Okay. Okay. The next applicants for reciprocity are Chen, Cunningham, Dennis, and Ducharme, reviewed by John DeWolf.
I'm having a little problem with Chen. He has an associate degree in science from Cupertino, California. It's not an engineering degree. He has a tech degree from San Jose State, but it's not an ETAC from what I can see. And I don't know where to go with this. I doubt that he has 12 or 13 credit engineering courses in the tech degree from San Jose State. But I don't know if he has 48 credits or if it's required for a technology degree. But am I correct, Jane, that it is not an technology degree, that is an ETAC degree?
I just need a minute to look at it.
Yes, thank you.
My God. Do we want to come back to it? So I have a minute.
Yeah, all right, we'll come back.
Okay. Cunningham has a technology degree from Drexel, which is listed as ETAC. Dennis has a technology degree from University of Maine, and Ducharme has a associate's in tech, but then he went to to UConn and got a bachelor's. So I move approval of Cunningham, Dennis, and Ducharme.
There's a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Right. All those in favor of the motion to approve Cunningham, Dennis, and Ducharme for Class 4 reciprocity, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. We can move on, Bob, down to Dadapudi, Gannon, and Ibrahim for Class 4 reciprocity.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve all three, but I'd like to point out that Dudapudi has a foreign degree from India, and it was deemed equivalent, no deficiencies in humanities or anything, and has 8 years, 10 months experience. Gannon has a technical degree from SUNY, a master's from Norwich University in civil engineering, and 28 years, 4 months experience, a good degree. Ibrahim has a foreign degree from Cairo, and a master's in structures from Cairo, and a PhD from University of Western Ontario in environmental engineering. But the curious thing, I don't know if it's this is a reflection of being educated in the Middle East, but his thesis for his PhD was the behavior of reinforced concrete barriers under the effect of blast loads.
Does that include roadside?
Yeah. And I thought it was very interesting and very telling of our current state of
Timing, yeah,
affairs.
timely.
Mm.
Is there a second to
how-
the motion? Huh?
How thick do you gotta be?
Yeah.
Is there a second to the motion to approve Dudapudi, Gannon, and Ibrahim?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Richard. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And Rob Lewandowski reviewed Lee, Lyle, Miller, and Pena.
All right, let's go with Yitan Lee first on its own. Bachelor's of Environmental Science from Troy University, Master's in Environmental Science Engineering from Clarkson. Jane, in the package that got sent to me, there was no NCES evaluation. And I just went back just now and double checked that I somehow didn't miss it, and I didn't. So, if I got sent the complete package, what I recommend on this one would be to table it and have the degree evaluated by NCES, and then we would be able to review it in light of what we discussed at the start of our meeting today, with the science degree criteria. If that makes sense.
So the first degree is not an engineering degree, but a science degree.
Correct. Bachelor's in Environmental Science. So,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of those bachelor's degrees around the country that are science degrees and not engineering. I think it should be evaluated. I agree.
yeah, like I said, we talked about kind of our updated criteria at the start here. Let's just drop this person right into it and see how it goes next month. So, I would make the motion to table Yitan Lee for further review after receipt of NCES evaluation.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion to table Yetan Lee for NCES evaluation, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. So that's tabled. Then we
All
leave
right.
us Lyle, Miller, and Pena.
Yeah, the other three, I'm going to recommend approval. Malcolm Lyle has a bachelor's in engineering electronic technology with 20 years of experience. Hannah Miller has a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering and Master in Science Civil Engineering. I actually don't know why they're not model law. Couldn't figure that one out. And then Michael Pena is a BS in Mechanical Engineering Tech with 21 years of experience. So I recommend approval of the three of them.
Second.
Thank you, Robert. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And Richard Swizak reviewed Sandman, Warzecki, and Wright.
Sandman has a technology degree from Oklahoma State, and he has 15 years of experience. And he did indicate on his application that Kentucky recently, in terms of, in 2022, denied him because of the fact that he only had a technology degree. So maybe we're a little more progressive than we think we are. I don't know. So, but he does have 15, almost 16 years experience. Warzecki is non-NCEES, but he did graduate from UMass in 2001 and has 25 years experience, so he's fine. And then Andrew Wright has a technology degree out of the University of Toledo. And he also got his Master's of Science in Civil Engineering from the University of Toledo, which, I question why he didn't just get a bachelor's instead of I don't know. But anyways, and he has 22 years experience. So I'll make a recommendation that we accept all three of them.
Thank you, Richard. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Robert. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing on that, motion carries. So that leads us back to Q Chen, reviewed by John DeWolf.
So
I
that
didn't-
one's, oh, sorry, John. The, looking at his record, it says that his his engineering experience is after his EAC degree. Is that helpful?
I didn't follow what you said.
On his, record, it says he has an EAC degree.
He does have a accredited degree?
Yeah, EAC, it says.
The
Okay.
technology.
Okay, then if it's accredited, then I move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second,
Thank you, Robert. All those in favor of the motion to approve Q Chen with his technology degree evaluated by EAC. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing on
Thank
that
you,
motion
Jane.
carries. What was that?
I just said thank you, Jane, for
Oh.
checking it.
Thank you. Then the last item on our agenda is the approval of the Class 9 licenses from a variety of universities, mostly UConn. Is there a motion to approve the licenses, the EIT for Kula through Yusuf?
So moved.
second,
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, that motion carries. I think that completes our regular agenda.
I
Yes, there
just
was-
want to mention the fact that I will be moving to Colorado away from Connecticut, so this will be my last meeting, so
What?
our house is under contract and we got movers coming, and so I won't be traveling back and forth as much as I have been. So this is it's been great working with everybody. It's been a good experience, and I wish everybody well, and good luck with your revised regulations and new review. And at least you're making it simpler for everybody to make decisions rather than the quandary we've been in for a long time. So like I said, it's been a pleasure, and Professor DeWolf, or Mr. John DeWolf, I still call him Professor. That I've always been enjoyed your presence and your advice, and look forward to being a role model out in Colorado for maybe some engineers out there.
Good.
You will be missed.
Thank you,
Been great
Richard.
to get
Agreed.
it's been great to get reacquainted over these years we've been on the board.
Yes,
Rich was in my first class,
Oh, wow.
and he did a master's with myself and one other colleague back in the '70s.
That's
Yep.
great.
Wow.
Well, best of luck out there, Richard.
All
Yeah,
right.
good
Well, thank
luck,
you very
Richard.
much. And
It's been a
you know,
pleasure.
Tony, I guess I got to make it formal by sending you a resignation statement.
We better send it to Jane. Who's our contact again in this regard?
If you
Um,
want to send it to me, I can pass it along.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll address it to Jane.
yeah. And then she'll send it to I forgot the name right now, but we'll find out. Well, ask Patty. She's the most recent one. Who do we send it to anyway? We'll figure it out.
I can't.
Yeah, we can
remember.
take care of it once I get it.
All right, I'll send it to Jane and Carmen copy Tony so that he gets kind of a.
All right. Thank
All
you,
right.
Richard. Good luck.
All
Don't
right.
break
Well,
anything on
like I
those
said, it's
slopes.
been a pleasure working with everybody, Al and everybody else, and Bob and Rob, and it's. I'm
Yeah,
gonna miss you
likewise.
all, but life moves on.
What town you moving out to out there?
Littleton.
Littleton? Okay.
Yep. we have a place out there. We've had a place out there for a few years now, so it's about time. Grandkids are getting older, so I can actually play with them and work with them and mold them into new engineers.
There you go.
Good luck with that.
All right, good
All right,
enough.
thanks, everyone.
Take care.
All
Thanks,
right.
everyone. See you in July.
Thanks, everyone.
See
All
you
right.
later.
Take
Bye.
care.
I'll send you what I can do, Al, okay? Then you put it into better
Okay.
form.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Al, it's your turn.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thanks, Al. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, take care.